Okay, hey guys, so today we're going to do positive and negative exponents. We're going to make a foldable. First thing I need you to do is fold this hot dog fold long ways. And then the next thing I need you to do is fold it hamburger. And once you have it that way, I'm going to need you to fold it again, hamburger. And then one more time, hamburger fold. Okay. So now when you open it up, you should be able to open it from the side this way. Okay. And I want you at this point to take scissors and go ahead and cut along these lines. I'll show you how to do it. So you're not going to cut the whole page, you're just going to cut the front. So see how there's a back? You want to leave this back flat. And you just want to cut this top part right along the fold. Okay. Then you have your foldable that's cut up like this. Feel free to pause the video at any time if you need to take more time to cut. Okay. Alright. So now what we're going to do is on the top I want you to label it positive and negative exponent. Oh, sorry. Here you go, so you can see it. The label on the top, positive and negative exponent. Okay, so I want you to open it up, and you should have these flippy, floppy things on this side. And I want you to take this edge, and I want you to hamburger fold it to the middle of your paper. So that you should have two little smaller size windows here. And so then what I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to just take your marker or take your pen, whatever you're using, and trace your lines down the center where you see the creases, and then this way as well, so that you have these half-size boxes on the right and your full-size boxes on the left. So it should look like that. Again, feel free to pause the video anytime you need to. Okay, so then you keep having it open. What I want you to do is on this column, this flippy column, it's on the other side of the positive and negative exponents. I want you to write, put it in fraction form, 1 under or over, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. And then in this blank I want you to write simplify exponent. And in this blank, I want you to write simplify to decimal. Okay? Alright, and then once you have that, you can go ahead and close your foldable back up to the front. and then we can get started on what we're actually learning. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do our exponents. So the first one I want to do with you, and I'm going to color code this. If you want to color code it at home, that'd be awesome too, but you don't have to. I'm going to use a blue, a purple, a green, and I guess a brown will work. Okay. So first one I'm going to do is 10 to the third power. Okay? So then I want you to open up the inside of your flap, and I want you to write, so when we write 10 to the third power, that's the same thing as 10 to the third power over 1, right? Anything over 1 is still that same value. So then we'll write it as a fraction. So 10 to the third power, which you know is 10 times 10 times 10 over 1, which is the same thing as 1,000 over 1, which is equal to what? 1,000. So you might be thinking, why are we doing this over 1? What is the point? Well, I'll explain it to you when we get down into negative exponents. So you put your lid back. Now we're going to do 10, 2, and I'm going to change the color. So 10, 2, okay? So now if you open up 10, 2 to the inside, that would be, if we want to, because see, we're writing it in fraction form. So that one would be, make sure you can see it. That would be 10 to the second power over 1, which is the same thing as, 10 times 10 over 1, which is 100 over 1, which is the same thing as 100. So here we put it in fraction form, and we put the 1 under or over, and this time we put it under, because it's a positive exponent. And then when we simplify our exponents, we get 100 over 1, and when we simplify it to a decimal, it's just 100. We don't have to put the 0.0, because it's a little repetitive. Okay? Alright, so then the next one we're going to do, I'm going to get a different color now, I'm going to do purple, is 10 to the first power. And so if I open it up, I have 10 to the first power over 1. That's how we do it in a fraction. How we would do it in exponents, if we simplified the exponent, well, 10 to the first power, is 10 over 1. And then simplifying that to a decimal would just be plain 10. Okay? Next one we're going to do, and I'm using brown for this, notice I've used a different color for all of these, is 10 to the 0 power. And that's a 0 power. I'm going to write 0 power, and because I don't want you to think it's the degrees symbol, because we're not doing 10 degrees, we're doing 10 to the 0 power. Okay, when you open that one up, it would be 10 to the 0 power over 1. And 10 to the 0 power, remember I told you guys, anything to the 0 power is 1. So 1 over 1, and then that's 1 whole. Okay? Now, fold it back over. And since I used purple for 10 to the first power, I'm going to use the same color for 10 to the negative first power. Okay? So then I want you to open that flap up. And I'm opening these flaps so I can show you. When we had positive exponents, we put the 1 under the exponent, right? So this was 10 to the third, 10 to the second, 10 to the first. And so we put it over 1. But now that we have a negative exponent, we're going to put 1 over 10 to the first. So basically all this negative tells us is this part right here, is that it's 1 over. So that's what the negative stands for in the exponential form. Okay, so then 1 over 10 to the first is going to be 1/10, because we simplify our exponents, which happen to be in the bottom this time. And then we write 1/10 as a decimal. Well, 1/10 as a decimal is a 0 and 1 in the tenths place. Okay? So then the next one we're going to do is 10 to the second power. Oh, 10 to the negative second power. And I'm using green because that's the one I used for 10 to the second power. And I'm going to show you guys how these colors match up in a second. So when you open up 10 to the second power, since it's a negative sign, right, we're going to put a 1 over 10 to the second. And then when we simplify our exponents, we know that that's 1 over 10 times 10, which is 1 over 100. And then that's 0, 0/10, and a 1 in the hundredths place. And then the last one we're going to do is 10 to the negative third power. And I'm using blue because for 10 to the third power I used blue before. So then when you open it up, you're going to have 1 over 10 to the third power, which we know is 1 over 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1 over 1,000. And so that's 0 wholes and 0/10, 0 1, 0/10, 0 hundredths, and 1,000. So now when you look at this, you can see a pattern. Obviously I used the same color even if it was positive or negative. And when I open all of these up, I'm going to show you that notice all of our positive exponents were over 1 and our negative exponents had a 1 over the other way. And then you can also see here when we get our final answer that when we simplify to a decimal, 10 to the third is just a 1 with 3 zeros. 10 to the second is a 1 with 2 zeros. 10 to the first is a 1 with 1 zero. 10 to the 0 power is a 1 with 0 zeros. That's why it's plain 1. 10 to the negative first power is a 1 with a 0, except the negative part means that it's a decimal. It's less than 1 instead of being greater than 1. And then here, it's 10 to the negative second power, so we still have 2 zeros, but the negative sign means that it's going to be a small decimal. And then the same thing you can see here with 10 to the negative third, 3 zeros, but since it's negative, it's going to be a decimal. And you can see that 10 to the third and 10 to the negative third, the only difference is that it's a negative sign. They both still have 3 zeros, except for this one has a decimal in it, and this one's a whole number. Okay, and you can see that with both of the other color combinations. So here, positive 2 and negative 2, both have 2 zeros, except this is 100, and this is 100th. So this is the decimal, and this is the whole number. So all of your positive exponents are going to be numbers that are greater than 1 whole, and the negative exponents are going to be numbers that are less than 1 whole. Okay? And then remember, anything to the 0 power is just 1. So anything to the 0 power is 1, anything to a positive exponent is greater than 1, and anything to a negative exponent is smaller than 1.